Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business for the past 28 years. Okay, it is Monday. It is fun day, and let's talk about some fitness matter. I had a question the other day that came up, and the question was, or suggestion I would imagine, was why don't you talk about supplements? And I thought, wow, you know what? That's perfect. So let's do it. Let's talk about some supplements today. I want to start out by describing what supplements are. So think about the word supplement. It's supposed to supplement your diet. So when we're talking about supplements, we're talking about anything that can supplement your diet and not replace your diet. These supplements could be vitamins and or minerals, and vitamins are either water soluble or oil soluble, and they're very, very important. Important sounds like a great word. They're very important. And minerals can either be trace minerals or major minerals, also very important. Supplements can also be things that are supposed to give you an advantage, like a performance enhancing supplement, and that could be caffeine, that could be amino acids, that could be creatine. If we're talking illegal and unsafe, that could be testosterone, that could be human growth hormone, that could be insulin growth factor. So there's all kinds of supplements out there. What people are typically talking about when they talk about supplements are ergogenic aids to an extent, and vitamins and minerals. Fat loss drugs, fat loss supplements. So now that I got those ironed out as far as what they are, let's talk a little bit about if they're needed or not. I'm going to kind of leave this one dangling a little bit because that's how it is, and I'm going to tell a few stories. And I started laughing when my client suggested this because I thought, oh wow, do I have some great stories with this one. So let me start out with one I have from when I was in graduate school. We had to do a paper in one of my classes. I don't remember which class it was, but we were supposed to take a controversial issue and teach it to the class. And I thought, okay. So I was talking to my advisor, who happened to be Dr. Roeder, about it. And I said, we kind of got off little backstory here. We were talking a little bit about supplements, like we were talking a little bit about amino acids. Now, amino acids are the building blocks of protein, so they are critical. We do need protein, and amino acids are just what make up the protein. So when I talk about amino acids, they're not necessarily a supplement. They can be taken in the form of a supplement, or they can be taken as your natural food. But when I was talking to Dr. Roeder, not even about the paper, I was talking about something else, the effectiveness of amino acids. I told him how effective they were. I said, they really worked. They did this for me, they did that for me. And I was talking about a time period previous to that conversation that I thought they really worked. And he said, interesting. Why don't you do your paper speech on that? Go do your critical review, go do all your research, figure it out, write up your data, and bring it back and present it to the class. And I said, okay, just on amino acids, that was easy. He said, yeah, amino acid supplementation. I said, sure, I'll do that. So I went, and I don't remember how long it took. It was typically our research assignments were pretty long. They were meant to, take a few weeks or so to come back to the class and present. So I did my research, and we only used legitimate research reviews. Back then we didn't have Google, but we weren't allowed to use silly magazines or newspapers or New York Times or anything like that. We had to use empirical data. We had to study what the medical and or exercise physiology journals had to say on our subject matter. So again, I want to just back up a second and talk about how much I knew these amino acid supplements worked. I mean, I was convinced that they were a big part into why I got stronger, why I felt more burst in my workouts, why I was bigger, and all those things that I took them for. So then I set off and did my review. And at the very best I found, some studies said inconclusive. And again, we're talking in regards to supplementation, not actually amino acids themselves, because of course they work. They're the building blocks of protein, so they work to the extent that protein will work. But my research was simply on the supplementation. So I did my work, and at the very best I got inconclusive. 90 to 95% of the articles and reviews I found stated they did absolutely nothing, that any effects from them were completely placebo, that you weren't getting anything more from them that you couldn't get from your diet. I thought, wow, no wonder why Dr. Roeder had a little twinkle in his eye when he assigned this and kind of smiled a little bit as his young students' enthusiasm was pouring all over the room of how effective they were. And, he was a great teacher, so he wasn't just going to say, no, they're not, you dummy. He wanted me to go figure it out for myself. So I went back to the class a few weeks later, whatever it was, with my tail between my legs and a little smile on my face, and I presented all the data, and I basically stated, they don't work. So, to add a little candle to this cake, shortly after that, I decided, I still think they work. So I went out and I got some supplementation, and I noticed absolutely nothing from these amino acids that I started taking. And I took them for a little while, at least a full bottle's worth for a month or 6 weeks or whatever, give them their due diligence. And sure enough, they didn't work anymore. So what I came to the conclusion was, all of the work that I thought that they did was completely in the form of a placebo, which I do believe wholeheartedly is a very, very big factor. In other words, placebos work. So if you can get yourself to believe in something, then take it, because that's what's going to be the work. Now, I'm not going to leave it there, because then you're thinking, well, you're saying all supplements are bad. No, I'm not saying that. Now I'm going to tell another little story that's kind of funny. Funny in a way, sick in another way. I'm not going to state who this is or what they represented or whatever. But there's a famous story, and it's not really an urban legend because I know some of the people. But a person went off to another country and did some work in extracting and finding some matter on the ground, and basically turned out to be elephant dung, elephant feces, and they had a bit of a weird sense of humor. And they said, Americans will buy anything. You tell them it's going to work, and they're going to buy it, they're going to eat it up. Literally. And, the rest of the folks are saying, I don't think so. No, not everything. He says, well, let's take this elephant feces, for example. If we go back and we put it into a supplement, and we even tell the people that what it is, they're still going to buy it. And the group was like, no, that's not going to happen. No way. Well, sure enough, and I don't know the exact numbers, and again, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this. Yes, it was illegal, believe it or not, and all that. But it is pretty mean prank to play on people, you would say. Brings it back and bottles it up and makes it all pretty, and basically tells people what's in it it, in the fine print at the very least. And people buy it. People buy this anyway because they think that it's going to have some sort of aid to their fat loss and muscle building. So women will buy almost anything, at least 80s and 90s, that had, and don't worry, I'm going to bash men too, that had a fat lowering promise. And men would buy anything in the same era that had a muscle building promise. And this feces apparently had both. So yes, it was bought to the extent until it was decided that we probably shouldn't market this to people anymore. He won the bet, basically stating, people will buy anything even if they literally are buying shit, which is pretty disgusting when you think about it. Now, I will tell you that there were so many things on the market in the 80s and 90s, basically like this. You could buy different forms of liver, different forms of fat burning properties, all these kinds of things. Some of the drinks and mixes that were sold is pretty scary. And I hate to admit that I actually took some in the 80s and 90s having no idea. Never took anything illegal or steroids because, as I've stated before on a previous podcast, never was worth the risk to me. But was silly enough to buy some supplements that I thought would work. So you should know, first off, that most supplements are not FDA approved. They're just not. So you have to be careful what you're buying there, but that's a whole nother subject matter. I want to get back to the effectiveness of supplementation. When it comes to vitamins and minerals, which are the most basic of all forms of supplementation, the research at the very, very best says we don't know. And I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade because I know people take these things and people really, really believe in them. And there are people that make a lot of money on them. But when it comes to vitamins and minerals, which are the safest, research states that outside of supplementing vitamin D, none of the others have proven that they absorb and get into your bloodstream as they are promised. That's the key. Yes, vitamin A works. Vitamin A in a carrot that you can eat, that is in the right proportion. When you eat and digest, it will absorb as vitamin A. Nothing in the research says that the vitamin A in your centrum is going to do the same thing. Staying on vitamins and minerals, and since I've already told you one funny story, one disgusting story, I'll tell you another disgusting story. There was another research study done, and I don't know why. I was telling the client the other day this story as to why I don't know what they were looking for when they did it. But they went through and looked at all of the, there's just no better word, feces in portalets. And who knows what the heck they were studying. But what came out of the study was how many undigested vitamin tablets were found in the feces, which led to more studies on how vitamin companies can then make their products more digestible and more able to absorb. So the bottom line is, with a lot of vitamins and mineral tablets, is it's not 100% certain that these vitamins and minerals are being broken down and absorbing into your system. When I taught sports medicine in college, we did a little study that tried to emulate some of these absorption studies. What we did was we got all different kinds of vitamins. I'm not going to name brands. We got all different kinds of vitamins and different types, vitamin oil soluble, water soluble, different supplements, different sleep aids, you name it. we drop them into a vinegar solution, which is supposed to emulate the acid in your stomach. We left it there for a certain amount of time. After some time, some of the products that were more tablet-based actually broke down. That's a good sign. I mean, it means it was digested, but it still doesn't mean that gets absorbed. Those are two different things. Some of them never broke down in the vinegar solution. Some of them never broke down. It just sat there. And some of the gummy style ones actually morphed into something 3 times its size in the vinegar, making you wonder what it's doing once it hits your stomach acids in your stomach. So that's not good. That kind of tells you that we don't really know what's happening there. But let me get back to the empirical data. When it comes to supplementation of any kind, when it comes to the types that are not ergogenic aids, such as just vitamins and minerals, which are just supposed to give you your phytochemicals and give you your antioxidants, which are very, very good for you and very, very important. Again, I'm just going to repeat it. I don't mean to sound repetitive, but it's a very important point. The only ones that showed any effectiveness at all that goes outside of your food in the sun, because vitamin D can be absorbed from the sun, was vitamin D. D3. That's it. The rest were shown inconclusive at best. Now, fortunately with them, especially the water-soluble vitamins, there's no harm either. You're basically going to excrete out, pee out what you don't use. The oil-soluble vitamins can be toxic if taken in great quantities, but for the most part, people aren't doing that, and they're just going to be a waste of money and not toxic as well. So your oil-soluble vitamins are your A, Ds, Es, and Ks. All right, now I already said Ds are effective. Yes, they are. So if you just go and get the D3 from your Target or Publix or wherever you do your shopping and take it as prescribed, you're fine. If you take 10, well, you're an idiot. So there is that. So I'm not telling you to take a bunch of D3. I'm saying take one, just one. And if you're already getting some from the sun, hopefully, and from your food, that one you're taking is going to be fine. But the other ones, you got to be careful with. Just be careful. Now, when it comes to your ergogenic aids, your things that are supposed to enhance performance or drop body fat or whatever, like the studies as well say inconclusive. And some of them that alter your heart rate, that speed up your heart rate, can be outright dangerous. So anything that is a fat burner per se is typically a mixture of different kinds of legal speed, which some of them have been pulled off the market, some of them have not yet. So at the very least, what the studies are showing is they're not effective. They don't do as promised. As I've stated a million times, the only way we lose weight is energy in. It has to be less than energy out. There's not a fat burner in the world that's going to help that. And at the worst case scenario, they can be a little dangerous, so you have to watch that. In regards to protein powder, sometimes people get their protein and their meal replacements from a type of mixture, a protein. Okay, that's a little bit different. So now you're talking replacing meals or coming up with the shake version of a protein. Well, a protein's not really a supplement. A protein is a macronutrient. Now, I will say there's nothing in that protein that's greater than the protein you can get from your normal food. So in the case of arguing protein powder versus protein in food, it's just the same thing. So it's really not a supplement. But you can get the protein you need from the protein powders. So that's a little bit different. So if you're using shakes and stuff to replace meals, that's a little different. Yes, that's supplementing your meal, but that's not extracting one piece of something out of something and taking it independently, which is what you're doing with an amino acid or a B vitamin or a C vitamin or whatever. So that's a little bit different. But again, it's not superior protein either. it's just protein. I will say, make sure you get the best source that you can. Make sure you read the ingredients and there aren't any dangerous or unnecessary fillers in there. Really read the fine print. You should only be consuming about 25 grams of protein at a time anyway. So if the protein container says 50 grams, know that you're wasting a lot of it. In conclusion, let's just make sure that we're eating real whole foods. There's nothing wrong per se with taking a vitamin pill if it's a safe, regular, very well-known brand name vitamin that's water soluble or one of the minerals. The studies pretty much show at the very worst case scenario, you're just going to excrete it. Just know that the research really doesn't support it as far as getting what you need from it either. I mean, my recommendation is eat real foods. Try to get all of this from your real foods. That do the best you can to do that. What are you deficient in? Figure it out what it is. If you're cramping up a lot, you're deficient in magnesium. Eat your green leafy vegetables. That will increase that. Figure out what you're deficient in and start eating more of the foods that have that. That's the absolute best bet. Because do you really want to be spending money on something that isn't really working? And please don't take the ones with the claims for fat loss, muscle building, and all that kind of stuff. Because not only do they not work, they can be outright dangerous. All right? Told you some stories. Hope they made you laugh. I think they tell great stories. I think they really give us an idea of what the truth is. And the first story I told is so true regarding placebos. Keep that in mind. I hope I didn't just ruin a placebo for you. If I did, maybe I saved you a lot of money. So there is that. I want to thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They currently have over 270 5-star reviews on Zillow. That's pretty impressive. There's never been a better time to sell your house. And if you're looking for something, they're your folks too. You talk about fit. You should see this couple. And you know what? That's very, very, very important because I believe they hustle, they work hard, they love fitness, they have high energy. I seriously doubt they take supplements. Had to throw that back in there. I just think they eat right, and that's why they look so darn good. But anyway, give them a shout at 386-451-2412. And until next time, be Max Fit and be Max Well.